There is a quiet satisfaction that comes from growing your own food. We gardeners know this well. We nurture seeds into seedlings, and seedlings into plants that bear fruit. But there is another kingdom of life, often overlooked, that can bring immense joy to the home grower. I am, of course, talking about fungi. Growing mushrooms at home is a wonderfully rewarding project. It connects you to a different cycle of nature, one that is mysterious and fascinating. It is a process that happens indoors, away from the wind and rain, making it a perfect activity for any time of year. You don't need a large garden or an allotment. A small space on a shelf is quite enough to begin your journey. Beyond the simple pleasure of watching them grow, mushrooms are a truly marvelous addition to your diet. They are packed with goodness, offering up vitamins and minerals that are brilliant for your health. Think of them as little powerhouses of nutrition. They are low in calories, but high in flavor, adding a deep, earthy, umami taste to your cooking that is hard to replicate. When you grow your own, you know exactly what has gone into them. There are no chemicals, no long journeys from farm to shop, just pure, fresh, delicious mushrooms, picked at their absolute peak of perfection and ready for your kitchen. It is a simple way to bring more whole, natural foods to your table. The process itself is a lesson in patience and observation. Unlike the familiar green shoots of a pea or a bean, mushrooms emerge in their own unique way. First, you see the delicate, web-like growth of the mycelium, the true body of the fungus. Then, as if by magic, the small pins appear. These are the baby mushrooms, which can double in size every day. It is a captivating spectacle to witness. It teaches us about a different kind of growth, one that happens in the dark and damp, transforming simple materials like straw or coffee grounds into something truly special and edible. It is a quiet, gentle form of gardening that soothes the soul. So why not give it a try? You might think it is a complicated affair, reserved for scientists in laboratories, but I assure you it is not. With a little bit of guidance and the right materials, anyone can successfully cultivate mushrooms in their own home. It is an accessible, affordable, and deeply fulfilling hobby. Whether you are an experienced gardener looking for a new challenge or a complete novice curious about the natural world, growing mushrooms opens up a new dimension of home cultivation. It is a chance to grow something truly different, something that will both nourish your body and feed your curiosity for the world around us. Before we can begin this fungal adventure, we must gather our supplies. It is always best to have everything ready before you start a garden task. This is no different. First, you will need a container. This does not need to be anything fancy at all. A simple plastic tub with a lid, a 5-gallon bucket, or even a sturdy sealable bag will do the trick perfectly. The key is that it can hold your growing medium and be closed to maintain humidity. Think of it as the pot for your mushroom plant, a little home where the magic will happen. You might need to drill a few small holes in it later on, but we will get to that. Next, you need what is called a substrate. This is simply the food and bedding for your mushrooms. It is the soil of the fungi world. Different mushrooms like different foods. For beginners, I find that straw or hardwood sawdust are excellent choices. They are easy to find and work with. Some people have great success using spent coffee grounds, which is a wonderful way to recycle. You can often buy bags of substrate that are already prepared and sterilized, which makes the process even simpler. The substrate is the foundation of your mushroom crop, so it is important to choose a good one. The most vital ingredient, of course, is the mushroom spawn. This is not like a seed. Spawn is a carrier, usually grain or sawdust, that has been fully colonized by the mycelium. The mycelium is the network of thread-like roots that is the main body of the fungus. The mushrooms we eat are just its fruit. You can buy spawn online or from specialist suppliers. For your first attempt, I would suggest choosing an easy and forgiving variety. Oyster mushrooms are a fantastic choice. They are vigorous, grow quickly on many different substrates, and are absolutely delicious. Finally, you will need a few other bits and bobs to ensure success. A spray bottle for misting is essential for keeping the humidity just right. You will also need some rubbing alcohol and a clean cloth for sterilizing. Cleanliness is very important in mushroom cultivation to prevent unwanted molds. A thermometer can also be helpful to monitor the temperature. Having all these simple tools on hand will make the process smooth and enjoyable. It is like assembling your gardening tools. Being prepared is half the battle won. Now that we have our supplies, it is time to prepare the substrate. This is a crucial step. The substrate is the food source for your mushrooms, but it can also be a tasty meal for other unwanted guests, like bacteria and mold. To give our chosen mushrooms the best possible start, we need to eliminate the competition. This process is called sterilization or pasteurization. It sounds technical, but it is quite straightforward. We are simply cleaning the substrate so that only our mushroom mycelium will grow on it. This step dramatically increases your chance of success, so please do not be tempted to skip it. For a substrate like straw, pasteurization is the way to go. The easiest method is to use hot water. You will need a large pot or a heat-proof container. Chop your straw into smaller pieces, a few inches long, to make it more manageable. Place the straw into a mesh bag or an old pillowcase. Submerge this bag in hot water around 70 to 80 degrees Celsius for about an hour. This is hot enough to kill off most of the competing organisms, but not so hot that it kills the beneficial bacteria that can help your mushrooms grow. Use a weight to keep the straw fully submerged in the water. After its hot bath, the straw needs to be drained and cooled. You want it to be damp, but not dripping wet. A good test is to squeeze a handful of the straw. It should feel moist, and perhaps only a drop or two of water should come out. If it is too wet, the mycelium can drown. If it is too dry, it will not be able to grow. Finding this perfect balance of moisture is one of the key skills you will learn. Let it cool down completely to room temperature. Introducing your spawn to a substrate that is too hot will kill the delicate mycelium, and all your hard work will be for nothing. If you are using a pre-sterilized substrate that you have bought, you can skip this whole process, which is a great shortcut for beginners. These ready-to-use bags have been prepared in a sterile environment and are ready for you to add your spawn. This convenience can be well worth it for your first few grows, allowing you to focus on the later stages of cultivation. Whichever method you choose, preparing this bed carefully is like tilling and amending the soil before planting. It lays the groundwork for a strong, healthy, and productive crop of delicious homegrown mushrooms. With our substrate perfectly prepared, we move on to the most exciting part, inoculation. This is the moment we introduce our mushroom spawn to its new home. It is the equivalent of sowing a seed. Before you begin, cleanliness is paramount. We must create an environment that is as clean as possible to avoid contamination. Wipe down your work surface, your container, and your hands with rubbing alcohol. Think of it as a surgical procedure for your fungi. Any stray mold spores floating in the air could land on your substrate and outcompete your mushrooms, so working quickly and cleanly is very important. Now, let's mix it all together. Gently break up the mushroom spawn in its bag so it is crumbly. If you are using a tub or bucket, layer the spawn and the substrate. Start with a layer of your damp, cool straw, then sprinkle a layer of spawn over it. Repeat this process until your container is nearly full, finishing with a final layer of substrate on top. If you are using a growing bag, you can simply pour the substrate and spawn into the bag and mix it all together thoroughly with your clean hands. The goal is to distribute the spawn evenly throughout the substrate, giving the mycelium access to food in all directions. Once inoculated, seal your container. If you are using a tub, put the lid on securely. For a bag, seal it at the top. This initial stage is called incubation. During this time, the mycelium needs two things: warmth and darkness. It does not need any light at all. Find a spot in your home that maintains a steady, warm temperature, ideally between 20 and 24 degrees Celsius. A cupboard, a corner of a utility room, or a spot near a boiler often works well. Now, you must be patient. Leave the container alone and let the mycelium do its work. Over the next 2 to 4 weeks, you will see a beautiful transformation. The white web-like mycelium will begin to grow, spreading out from the spawn and consuming the nutrients in the substrate. It will look like a fine network of white threads weaving their way through the straw or sawdust. This is a sign of healthy growth. Soon, the entire container will be covered in this white network. This means the substrate is fully colonized and the fungus is almost ready to produce mushrooms. This quiet, hidden growth is the powerhouse of the whole operation, building up energy for the final show. When your substrate is completely white with mycelium, it is a glorious sight. This means the incubation phase is over, and it is time to encourage the fungus to fruit. Fruiting is the stage where the fungus produces the mushrooms that we can harvest and eat. To make this happen, we need to change the environment quite dramatically. We need to simulate the conditions of an autumn day. This means we need to introduce 3 new things: a drop in temperature, fresh air, and a small amount of light. This change in conditions is the signal that tells the mycelium it is time to reproduce. First, move your container to a cooler location. A spot with a temperature between 15 and 20 degrees Celsius is ideal. A garage, a shed, or a cooler room in the house would be perfect. It also needs some indirect light. A spot near a window but out of direct sunlight is best. Just enough light to read by for a few hours a day is plenty. Next, it needs fresh air. If you are using a bucket or tub, this is when you drill a few small holes, perhaps a 1/4 inch wide around the sides. For a bag, you can simply cut a few small slits. This allows carbon dioxide to escape and fresh oxygen to enter, which is a key trigger for fruiting. The final element is humidity. Mushrooms are mostly water, and they need a very humid environment to develop properly. This is where your spray bottle comes in. You need to mist the inside of your container or the areas around the holes several times a day. The goal is to keep the air around the developing mushrooms moist, but you should avoid spraying the mushrooms themselves directly if you can. You are aiming for a humidity level of around 85 to 95%. You will soon see tiny little bumps forming near the holes. These are called pins, and they are the start of your mushrooms. Watching the pins develop is truly remarkable. They can double in size every 24 hours. Keep up with your daily misting and ensure they have that fresh air and gentle light. In just a week or so, those tiny pins will grow into full-sized, beautiful mushrooms. It is a rapid and rewarding process. You may encounter problems like green mold, which means contamination has occurred, or your mushrooms may dry out if the humidity is too low. But with careful monitoring of these simple conditions, you will guide your fungi through this final push to a successful and delicious harvest. The moment you have been waiting for has arrived. Your container is now bursting with clusters of beautiful, mature mushrooms. Knowing exactly when to harvest is a skill you will develop with experience, but there is a simple guideline. For oyster mushrooms, you should harvest them just as the edges of the caps begin to flatten out or turn slightly upwards. If you wait too long, they will release their spores, which creates a fine white or pink dust, and their texture can become a bit tough. Picking them at the right moment ensures the best possible flavor and texture for your cooking. Harvesting is a simple and satisfying task. It is best to harvest the entire cluster at once, rather than picking individual mushrooms. Grasp the cluster firmly at its base where it meets the substrate. With a gentle twisting and pulling motion, the entire bunch should break away cleanly. Avoid cutting them with a knife if you can, as leaving a stump behind can invite rot and prevent future mushrooms from growing in that spot. Once harvested, you can trim the very base of the stem, which can sometimes be a little tough, before preparing them for your meal. Your mushrooms are best eaten fresh. The flavor of a mushroom picked just moments before it is cooked is unparalleled. It is earthy, rich, and deeply satisfying. If you cannot use them all at once, you can store them. The best way to do this is in a paper bag in the main compartment of your refrigerator. A plastic bag will trap moisture and cause them to become slimy very quickly. In a paper bag, they can breathe, and they should stay fresh for up to a week. You can also dry them for longer-term storage, which concentrates their wonderful flavor. And the good news is, this is often not the end. Many mushroom kits and blocks will produce more than one harvest. After you have picked your first crop, continue to mist the block and maintain the humid conditions. Within a week or two, you might be rewarded with a second and sometimes even a third flush of mushrooms. This is the gift that keeps on giving. Growing your own mushrooms is a journey of discovery. It is a simple, rewarding process that connects you with the quiet magic of the fungal kingdom. So please, have a go. You will be amazed at what you can achieve in a small corner of your home.